Okay, hello and welcome to this video. We're here to talk about southern pine beetle, and there's an article in Newsday that I'm going to read to you, as well as talking about my own experience to see this horrible infestation of southern pine beetles spread throughout the Long Island Pine Barrens. And this is South Haven County Park, a year ago on March 30th, 2021, a year and a half ago. You can see these beautiful pitch pines here, and it just all looks just amazing. Another picture here to show you here. You can see it just all looks amazing. However, you could see this right here in the distance is a tree that was killed by a southern pine beetle right here. This was a year and a half ago. All right, but they didn't act. They didn't do anything. And so all this whole grove of beautiful pine trees that you have right here, well, they're gone now. And this is what we have now. Yeah, that is what we have now. And in fact, we can actually go and look at that exact tree that I feature. So this, again, was from this recent hike that I took on Sunday, October the 9th. And you can see all the dead pine trees all around here, all the ones with the needles turning red. Right, those are all infested with southern pine beetles. That's what happens. The needles turn very red. Okay, so if we move forward in the set, you'll see again here are here's a pine tree that's still okay, but they're going to spread to that pine tree too, because again, there isn't much being done to stop these southern pine beetles. Though there's an article in Newsday we're going to go over. All right, so this again is the area where that this was the big beautiful pine right here that I showed you at the beginning of this video, and you can see its needles are turning brown and orange. So that is a sign of southern pine beetle. So looking at some more pictures here, we'll show you here again. This is what happens, as you saw in my video, this is what happens when you have an infestation of southern pine beetle. The trees try to defend themselves by oozing pitch out of their tubes. These beetles bore holes into the actual trunk and bark of the tree, so it's basically suffocated to death. All right, it's a horrible way for the tree to die, and you can see these pitch tubes right here. But yet nothing was done about it. Here's the needles turning brown here and red. All right, so this is again what a southern pine beetle infestation looks like. So now let me read to you the article from Newsday about this southern pine beetle outbreak. This is the article from Newsday, of course, because Newsday is paywalled. I had to go to the library and copy it, because luckily I can access Newsday at the library. But it says, Fire and Chainsaws, the fight to save LI's wilderness. So there's a video. Unfortunately, you cannot watch the video. There's no way for us to watch it because, again, I believe the site is paywalled. I could try to watch the video, but I'll provide a link in the description below, so if you want to watch the video, you can. But it says Christopher Steigerwald it says saving the Pine Barrens, a crucial part of LI's ecosystem. Christopher Steigenwald, a state DEC forestry technician, explains how fire and chainsaws help to rejuvenate the 105,000 acres of public and private lands. Overgrowth and invasive pests are constant threats to the land that serves as a vital filter for Long Island's aquifers. So, as Nathan Hudson and Christopher Steigerwald flew at 2,000 feet over Long Island's Pine Barrens in a single-set-engine Cessna one day in early August, apparently they don't have drones to look for this stuff, the two state forestry experts became alarmed while surveying the expansive canopy of green treetops, grassy fields, and scattered marshlands. Hey, do you see that one on the left? Hudson later remembered saying to Steigerwald. Hudson, a forest health specialist for the State Department of Environmental Conservation, pointed out an area of pitch pines that were yellow, a discoloration that signaled probable fatal infestation of the southern pine beetle, a tiny invasive insect first identified on Long Island in 2014. Steigerwald, a state DEC forestry technician, said the flight revealed widespread infestations of scattered out all across the Pine Barrens and on the North Fork as well. They were finding some pop-up places north of Belport High School. We never saw it there. Other beetle infestations were seen in Rocky Point near Mill Road in the Calverton Riverhead area. We noticed that one was pretty large, Steigerwald said. It was 450 trees, and that was in the middle of a forest, so it never would have been noticed unless we did that aerial survey. The men mapped precise locations on electronic tablets, noting single dead trees or infestations across 100 acres so they could saw the trees to the ground within days. And this is exactly what they need to do. Unfortunately, South Haven, they haven't done that. Since 2014, the Beetle has forced state foresters to cut down nearly 40,000 trees in the Pine Barrens and on the South Fork, Hudson said. The story of the aerial survey illustrates how the Pine Barrens, a 105,000-acre patchwork of public and private lands that is 7 times the size of Manhattan, are threatened by invasive insects and plants spurred by climate change, but also neglect that has permitted tree-stressing overgrowth and raised the risk of wildfire. In recent years, officials have stepped up the efforts to fight back and preserve this wild and ecologically sensitive area that filters rainfall and snow into Long Island's precious pure water aquifer. 2 key strategies are to thin the overgrowth and deliberately set fires to clear out understory plants. And this is a picture of them right here cutting down an infested pine tree. And there are the brown needles. Though sometimes they turn red as well, as you saw there. And those are the pitch tubes that I was talking about. So it says, Christopher Steigerwald, a state DEC forestry technician, cuts down a pine tree infested with southern pine beetle April 2022 at the Rocky Point. So the state is actually doing something, but I guess the Suffolk County is not cutting down a tree infested with southern pine beetle in April 2022 at the Rocky Point State Pine Barrens Preserve. The browning of pine needles and pitch tubes on the tree's bark are signs of southern pine beetle infestation. Fire as a tool. The term barrens bellies the reality of an often lush mosaic of wildlife, bogs, forests, and grasslands in eastern Brookhaven, southern Riverhead, and western Southampton towns. Inhabitants include white-tailed deer, red foxes, songbirds, red-tailed hawks, ospreys, turkeys, box turtles, and hog-nosed snakes. Pitch pine and oak trees tower over berry plants and flowering lupines and birdfoot violets. Visitors use the region for hiking, trail, biking, bird watching, skiing, and seasonal hunting. Recent efforts to protect the Pine Barrens reflect cooperation among agencies within the State Department of Environmental Conservation, the Central Pine Barrens Joint Planning and Policy Commission, an agency set up by the landmark 1993 Long Island Pine Barrens Protection Act, Brookhaven National Laboratory, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the U.S. Forest Service. Experts say that even though the deliberate burning of select areas and the cutting of trees can seem contrary to saving the Pine Barrens, they are effective. They point out that the Pine Barrens has always needed naturally occurring fire touched off by lightning to enrich their soil, open tree seed pods, and thin out the woods. To take fire away from this type of ecology, from the pitch pines, scrub oaks, and the Pine Barrens, to take the fire out of that would almost be synonymous with taking rain out of the rainforest, said Brian Scheffler, a U.S. Forest Service expert in Milwaukee who specializes in hazardous fuels and prescribed fires. Schaefer pointed out to research that native tribes used fire to manage the Pine Barrens. That was before the more modern mindset that fire should be prevented. So this is the map here of the core preservation area. And you will happen to notice, I believe, that EPCAL actually lies in that core preservation area. So how are they allowed to develop that? That's a good question. Long Island Pine Barrens are a 105,000-acre patchwork of public. We already read that. So, in recent decades, agencies have set off controlled burns, also known as prescribed fires, but their efforts have been inconsistent. Timothy Burns, a state DEC forest ranger, there are only 99 prescribed fires on 1,855 acres in the Long Island Pine Barrens from 2008 to 2021. Oh, that's just terrible. Now, New Jersey does 10,000 acres a year? So by mid-August, there has been 24 fires on 371 acres. Sites included the Otis Pike Pine Barrens Preserve State Forest in Manorville and the Rocky Point Pine Barrens State Forest. Officials said improved staffing and abatement of the coronavirus pandemic helped them set more fires this past summer. It's still not enough, though. Burns said that before setting fires to grasslands or woodlands, a burn boss assesses wind, humidity, and moisture in fuels such as grasses, dead wood, or scrub oak. Acreage is carefully plotted, and crews spray water at the boundaries before setting fires with drip torches. Burns said great care is taken with crews assigned to ignite, contain, and extinguish the flames. After a burn dies out, personnel stay behind to watch for flare-ups. Priority for burns is given to wildland-urban interface areas close to buildings and residential communities to reduce the danger of wildfires. Brookhaven National Lab, which has nearly 3,300 acres of Pine Barrens on its 5,600-acre campus in Upton, was the site of a 23-acre prescribed burn near Ridge in July. Kathy Schwager, an ecologist and prescribed program manager for the facility, a U.S. Department of Energy national laboratory, said that before prescribed fires, she speaks to residents in the neighboring communities such as Riz to explain the who, what, when, where, and how of prescribed fires. She said planners try hard to avoid sending smoke into a community. Yes, it does generate smoke, but smoke from a wildfire is going to be a lot worse, she said. And here you go. Here they are doing controlled burn right here. All right. You can see this is a controlled burn taking place. A couple of pictures of it right there. And again, this is done in New Jersey at a much more widespread, Jersey does a much more controlled burns, and the result is they don't have southern pine beetles. They don't have them like we do. All right. So, reducing fuel. Another tool in encouraging the health of the pine barrens is forest thinning, which aims to prevent fires and suppress the pine beetle. In the 2,700-acre David A. Sarnoff Pine Barrens State Forest, 2 miles south of downtown Riverhead, a sandy hiking trail reveals a tale of two forests. On one side, even under sunny skies, is a dark thicket jammed with gnarly pitch pines, tall oaks, spindly scrub oak, and blueberry and bearberry bushes. On the trail's other side, pitch pine trees stand 10 to 20 feet apart with clear daylight between them. Bushes grow here and there. During a visit to the forest in August, it was easy to see 1,000 feet into the distance. The open area is the result of 5 years' work by Hudson, Steigerwald, and others to reduce the overgrowth on 162 acres in the northern section of Sarnoff. That area was targeted to protect the nearby Riverwoods mobile home community from forest fire. Employing brute force, crews drove tank-like masticator machines with rotating drums into select areas to chew up overgrown bushes and scrub pine. Then they used chainsaws to weed out trees that are growing too close together. The benefits, forest experts say, are plenty. Fewer trees compete for sunlight, nutrients, and water. There is less fuel for wildfires. Polly Wiegand, Science and Stewardship Program Manager for the Central Pine Barrens Joint Planning and Policy Commission, explained that overgrown underbrush can create a ladder for a wildfire to climb from needles on the ground up through the bushes and scrub oak to the tree canopy. That scenario, a worst-case crown fire, scorched at least 3,200 acres in the legendary 1995 Sunrise Fire in eastern Suffolk County. A super dense forest is called dog hair, Hudson said. Weigland called it a beetle bait. Native to the southeastern United States, the southern pine beetle has been expanding up the east coast. Natural resin in a healthy pitch pine can pitch out beetles in small numbers, experts say, but a stressed tree cannot, especially when southern pine beetles secrete a pheromone that attracts even more by the hundreds. When you get 1,000 attacking one tree, it really has no chance to survive. The beetles, about the size of a grain of rice and red-brown to black in color, get under the corky bark of pitch pines and create swirly tunnels that disrupt the flow of nutrients, killing the trees. So here's a controlled burn on a grassland area. But see, the grasslands, spending too much time on the grasslands here. This is a grassland burn, Route 25 and 25A in Calverton. All right. Smokeless wildfire. Hudson called pine beetle attacks the smokeless wildfire because it can be that quick, and it is, as you saw there in South Haven. His description of the multiplying swarm sounds like a horror movie. You get a hot, dry year like this, and the southern pine beetle can just start, he said. They're looking out for those stressed trees. They find a tree, they overwhelm that tree's defenses, they kill that tree. They reproduce 100-fold, and then they can come out and get 10 trees. So, by June 1st, he continued, they're in their second generation, going from 1 tree to 10 trees. By August 1st, they're at 100 trees, pushing at 1,000 by September 1st. And if you get a warm fall, they can get another 6 weeks so they can have an October generation. And we've seen generations in December. Experts say the Northeast's cold winters usually kept the pine beetle south of New Jersey, but the pest was detected in significant numbers there in 2001, attacking the Garden State's sprawling pinelands. They say warmer winters caused by climate change have encouraged the beetle's march north. The DEC warned in April that the beetle had been found in parks in the Hudson Valley. In 2014, the southern pine beetle was reported at the Wertheim National Wildlife Refuge in Shirley, Henry's Hollow State Forest in Hampton Bays, and Connecticut River and State Park in Oakdale. I don't know if you've been to Connecticut Park, Hudson said, but it is almost nude of pitch pines right now. It got in there and it just exploded. And then it says COVID derailed work. In the years before COVID-19, Hudson said state crews made inroads to suppress the beetle, but had to curtail efforts in 2020. We didn't have the resources, and we just couldn't go anywhere, he said, referring to the pandemic travel restrictions. It's funny, I don't think New Jersey actually scaled back their operations with the forestry. But I think the whole world understands. And then 2021, we saw upticking. and I kind of braced for everybody for what 2022 was going to be like, and it was actually shockingly greater than I even imagined. Schweiger at Brookhaven National Laboratory agreed. It happened so fast, so alarmingly fast, and it's basically blowing through the lab right now, she said. BNL hopes to secure funds to thin the forest overgrowth on that federal property. Aside from the pine beetle, ecologists say other invasive pests and growths are a continual threat. Among them are a species known genetically as Japanese stiltgrass, Chinese silvergrass, mile-a-minute weed, which grows fast and smothers other plants, and oakwill, a fungus that kills oak trees. Ecologists and farmers are particularly watching for the spotted lanternfly, a red, black, and gray moth found in Pennsylvania in 2014 and found recently on Long Island that feeds on more than 70 plants, leaving behind a sticky residue. Officials say they are aware that the Pine Barrens, though vast, are out of sight and out of mind for many people. And that is the problem here. In New Jersey, they're not. Still, they want Long Islanders to understand why it's important to care about the wilderness. And this is a section of forest that has been managed left and unmanaged to the right inside the David A. Sarnoff Preserve. And you can see off to the left, you see nothing but pines here, fairly spaced apart. To the right, you see pines and oaks in very close proximity. Why the area is important. Wigan ticked off the reasons. The plants and soils of the Pine Barrens cleanse water as it seeps into the aquifer that supplies the island's fresh water. If you don't have a functional ecosystem, you're drinking contaminated groundwater. So that's one. Second, she said, is that the pine beetle is also killing homeowners' trees. If you're not controlling the beetle that's infesting on your property or your neighbor's not, it's going to come to your property. And it's going to cost you $1,000 plus to cut down cut that hazard tree down. There's no help in New York, unfortunately, for private homeowners to deal with these beetles. I think there is in New Jersey. Third, Wiegand said, is that everybody lives in a certain area because it gives them a sense of place and value, and the Pine Barrens is what gives Long Island its sense of place. When we lose the Pine Barrens, which has one of the highest number of rare and endangered species and ecosystems in any place in New York, we're losing why we love Long Island. And that right there is the way I feel. If we can't control these beetles, then I'm moving to New Jersey. There's no reason to stay here. And there's some deer right there. This was in 1995 after the West Hampton wildfires. Lessons from the ashes. The legendary 1995 Sunrise Fire was the largest wildfire New York State had seen in nearly a century. For 4 days, it burned through at least 3,200 acres of Long Island Pine Barrens. It involved virtually every Long Island fire department and cost more than $5.2 million to fight. Historical accounts say efforts to fight the fire were hampered by agencies unable to communicate over different radio frequencies, shifts in command, and delays in getting equipment. Some firefighters drove stump jumper trucks into the burning woods, but were forced to retreat as the flames raced across the treetops. More than 400 people were evacuated and 25 firefighters suffered minor injuries. From the ashes of that experience was born the New York Wildlife and Incident Management Academy, an annual series of classes to help firefighters sharpen their skills against wildland fires, especially in the towering walls of flames that stunned suburban volunteers in the woods in 1995. The Academy will offer classes for the 24th time, October 17th to 28th at Stony Brook University's Southampton campus. About 130 participants from across the county are expected to take 13 courses, according to coordinator Catherine Malangon. Subjects include leadership and the use of pumps and chainsaws. In a controlled burn, some participants will set torches to a Pine Barrens area, and another group will put out the fires with water and shovels. Suffolk County Fire Marshal Joseph Colton, a board member of the Wildlife Academy, was an assistant chief with the St. James Volunteer Fire Department during the 1995 fire. His truck extinguished flames along roads near Sunrise Highway and refilled brush truck water tanks. He said that the Academy's instructors include experts who have fought expansive wildfires in the West and Midwest. The general mindset of firefighting, the typical guys, is to put the wet stuff on the red stuff, he said. That's what we're used to. The wildland techniques were altogether different, where you isolated areas and you actually burn away areas before the fire gets to it. Or you can cut fire breaks so you help steer the fire. You will help eliminate the fuels so it can't advance. Captain Timothy Burns, a ranger with the State Department of Environmental Conservation and board chairman of the Academy, said the Academy seeks to teach firefighters how to predict a wildfire's progress based on weather and flammable materials. He offered a scenario. We have a condition. It's windy and dry with a lot of fuels on the ground. You know what? Maybe I shouldn't go in with a fire truck and put it out directly. Burns said that the Academy has taught chiefs to coordinate with other departments and agencies and their equipment, even aircraft that could drop water or retardants on a fire. So it has allowed them to see a whole different dynamic, vertical as well as horizontal, as to how they can be participating in a response with that kind of resource available to them. And that, I guess, is the article. So, good article, but it should bring up New Jersey and why New Jersey has fared so much better than Long Island, and it unfortunately does not do that. So here's a picture of New Jersey, and again, this looks different than Long Island because you see a lot of mature pines here, and you see space between them, and you don't see a whole lot of brush there. All right, and this is a classic example of New Jersey having better management of the situation. My question is, and this is my question to you in the comments section, do you think that the Long Island Pine Barrens may be too far gone to save? I don't want to hear it, but you got to tell me the truth. What do you think? Because it seems like they're trying, but yet after what I saw at South Haven, they're still not doing anything. And that is a really big concern. And so that's why I say when it comes to the Long Island Pine Barrens, you got to enjoy it while you still can. And I'm glad I did enjoy this beautiful scene while I still could before it turned into this. So, you know, it's very sad what happened at South Haven. So, and I'm going to, again, show you a few clips of what was going on at South Haven with this outbreak. The area has been hit very hard by southern pine beetle. You're going to see in a minute. Real shame. You know, damn Suffolk County doesn't do and they do nothing about it. You know, at least these are still okay. What a shame. Look at this. This is a southern pine beetle outbreak for you. Look at this. They're all. I mean, this is disgraceful. Really is. There were so many beauties in this spot. Look at them. They're all dying. I was really looking forward to this spot, man. Oh, man. I'm going to send the county a scathing letter with the images from this video. Because this is outrageous. Yeah, all these pines are infected. You can see the needles are turning. All of them. It's terrible, man. This was a real beauty. And it could have been saved if they stopped this damn outbreak, but they don't do anything, man. This is terrible, man. This was a real beauty. This was such a beautiful spot. It's being ruined. Well, we got one over there to look at. What a shame. Oh my gosh. That was a beauty. I was really looking forward to showing that to you. What I mean, this is what we're up against. We're up against the developers, but we're also up against the lack of action from the Department of Environmental Conservation. I'm sure people have seen this outbreak. They don't care. All these pines are going to be dead. What a shame. Yeah, we got these clouds now popping up. I don't know, it was supposed to be clear. I don't know. What a shame. What a shame. This is getting sent to this county. This is horrible, man. This tree's on borrowed time too, you know? What a shame. This is just a shame here. I try to get myself in a good mood and I gotta see this. You know, this is totally avoidable. You know what? Bleep you, Suffolk County, and bleep you, New York State. You don't do crap about this, man. But we don't have the money. You don't have the money. You don't have the money. You have the money to house, what, millions of migrants coming in here, but you don't have money to save the Pine Barrens. Yeah, don't worry. I'm gonna be telling the county off big time on this. This is disgraceful. Interesting how it just gets this whole area, but I mean, This isn't the kind of foliage you're going to see on a pine tree. These were real beauties. What a shame. Let's see if we can see the beetles actually crawling onto the tree, because these are newly infested trees here. Let's see. You see the pitch tubes? Yep, that's the tree trying to defend itself against the beetles. I don't see any crawling on the tree, but they're in there, trust me. Look at this one here. You see the signs, you see all the pitch tubes here? This is the tree trying to defend itself against the beetles. Oh, there's one. Oh, it's an ant. Yep, this is classic southern pine beetle. The pitch tubes and everything. Yep. Yep, that's southern pine beetle. This tree is under attack, and that's how it tries to defend itself. It leaks this pitch out of the tree to try to defend itself against the beetles. You know, all the county had to do is when a few trees got infested, you cut the infested trees down, but they don't do nothing. Oh, we don't have the money, so this is why. We don't have the money, yeah. So, that concludes this video, and a great article by Newsday, and again, you can check the links below, but is it too far gone? Because from reading that article, it sounds like our pine barrens are in some serious trouble, and this may be the end for them. Between the development, we didn't save enough, we didn't protect enough, we poorly managed it, and we may lose the entire pine barrens. Even though it's 105,000 acres, so many trees are getting destroyed so fast, and it's out of control. The state, they need more resources they're not getting. They had to use a single Cessna when they should be flying drones, and they should be doing drone inspections of the pine barrens on a weekly basis. They don't have drones. I mean, everybody has drones. But again, this is New York, and this is what we're up against, and this is why, when I see signs like this, I realize, maybe being forced to have to go live in New Jersey may not be such a bad thing after all. Because the one thing I love here on Long Island, the thing that makes Long Island the best one of my favorite places, is being destroyed. And once it's gone, there really is no reason to be here anymore. So that's going to wrap up this video. Thank you for watching. Take care.